Jasmin, how the bloody hell are you?
I'm good, yeah.
Oh my good grief, you have set the world on fire.
Yeah. I've not really had time to think about it hardly until like today when I was cycling into work. It was actually really nice because I got chance to like think about it. It was good.
Yeah.
Got the chance to kind of like think about, yeah, it's like that kind of like that feeling when it was just really like a really warm feeling comes over you when you kind of realize you actually did it, but it's not like I've had very much time to think about it since the thing. I've just been doing interviews or trying to rush around getting from one place to another, that sort of thing.
So what's been your schedule since you've been back, or since you finished? Because it just seriously, Jasmin, I honestly, I know you, and we've had a couple of chats before, and I'm really comfortable with you, but I'm like, oh my god, this is like the superstar Jasmin now. And I mean, I know you've done like amazing things, and we've had conversations.
I'm not. I'm just I'm good at persevering. I think that's what I am. Yeah, even I surprised myself with how much I persevered on Barkley. But I still don't think, the kind of hero thing, and that's not true. It's just, yeah.
Well, I get that, but I mean, the media attention has been phenomenal. I mean, I've been, from, I don't know if you're aware, but there was a bit of delay from Keaton's kind of message getting through. So everybody was on tenterhooks watching X, kind of waiting for the report. And, I'm sure some people like me going, oh my God, it's so close. I don't think she's got it. And then it came through. I was jumping off my sofa. Karen, my partner, was. But from there, it just seems like you've gone, I mean, everywhere. I mean, it's over, we've got Facebook, we've got, Instagram, you've got YouTube, you've got Virgin Radio, which I listened to yesterday, you've got radio. I mean, everybody is just, on fire.
At work, some of the younger, like the like undergrads said to me, you were like, she said, they were like videos on TikTok. And I was like, oh, I know her. So I actually made it onto TikTok as well. So there you go.
Wow.
Well, if the rest of it wasn't fame enough, TikTok's nailed it. So how does that compare then to the spine? Because I mean, the spine was off the chart, right? You had people, but how does this compare to that?
I think it's more than the spine. Yeah, it is more. I predict, because at the moment it's like anything that can wait for a little bit, like any magazine or any podcast or anything like that, I've just shoved it all in a file in folders from both my inboxes that say like interview request, because like at the moment it's just been like radio, TV, and like newspapers that want articles like now. I don't know, I feel like it's more, I'm probably just gonna have to get better at saying no, because like next week I'm on clinics again, so yeah, that wouldn't.
So was today your first day back at work?
I mean, I actually did a meeting yesterday, so I did like interviews from 7 a.m. till 6 p.m. with a 1 hour work meeting in the middle of it all. But then today I was in the lab. I actually went in for like a 3-hour research meeting this morning, and then I did some interviews. Like it's because it's a research week. It's kind of my time now to decide what I'm going to do with anyway. And they're like, everybody's like gushing over it anyway at the university. They're all like super excited. So I think they probably want me to do the interviews rather than not want me to do the interviews. I mean, the press office keeps sending me more requests. So, yeah.
So how aware were you? And when you were running up that hill, and one of the most kind of amazing bits of footage I said, I'm not going to gush, by the way, because I know you get embarrassed about it, but how aware were you that what you were about to do when you touched that gate was just going to go off the scale in terms of the ultra community, the world, the running community, kind of, or were you like, just sod this, it's another cut off and I'm gonna make it?
I mean, I think like before the event, I knew that it would like probably be pretty big if I finished it. But then I didn't really think about that very much. Like I really was there to just to get it done, because it was a personal kind of, because I had this intrinsic desire, kind of personal challenge that I wanted to do. And So I think, so I was aware, but when I was kind of like running it, it was just all about me trying to get to the finish. And in those, you know, that last loop, well, I can talk you more through the last loop, but basically kind of with, you know, roughly 6 or 7 hours to go, it was clear to me that it was going to be pretty close if I made it. But I didn't lose hope. Like I still thought I could do it. And then I got to the fire tower and I still thought I could do it. And like I kind of hit the places I wanted to hit, and I was like, it's still, it's on, it's still possible. So I kind of like was running with this like this kind of already this inside joy, but like trying to like tame it, like don't like get excited too soon. Like it's all, because everything's so fickle at Barkley. Like this, if there ever there was a race where things can change like that, it's Barkley. So I was coming off that last hill and I thought I had enough time to do it, for example, but I needed to run fast, and like I was going down the kind of zigzags, and at one point I tripped and I just flew straight forward like into like, and literally like hit the bank, like slid into the bank, like running pretty fast, and it was all dry leaves, and I was like, thank God. But like if you'd fallen like the other side down the slope, or if you'd fallen into a tree, then that you know, like you could have hurt yourself pretty badly, and that would have been maybe the end, you know, like half an hour from the end, and you would have been all over. So but you have to take, it's not like you can be careful at that point, because you had to, like I didn't have any time, so like I was like, yeah, so it wasn't until and then I got sorry, and then I got to like, so when I was, and I got to the kind of, with not that far to go, whenever I was, I kind of came right down and kind of got to the point where you're kind of running along this little bit of trail kind of up towards the camp, you know, the campsite with the gate where it ends. And then and at that point it was clear to me that I guess in the last kilometre that I had very little time, and I was if I didn't sort of, I at that point I was suddenly like, oh my gosh, I might not actually make it. And then all these kind of like, then the kind of thought of like the Gary Robbins situation, you know, like where he like touches it like I know he came from the wrong side, but like a few seconds too late, and I was like, oh my gosh. And that was, you know, the kind of the terror of the idea that you would have to do all this again, because so much of the day, you know, for the last 60 hours I'd just been holding it together and gone through such suffering, and it was all for this like to get to do it, and then the idea that I would be so close and not do it, and that's, I think, just what kept me moving. And it was like torture because I was so desperate to stop, and then I had to do the kind of final sprint up the hill, and at that point I was just, everything in me was just screaming at me to stop. And it was like it was almost like, firstly I said, it was like I said to myself, just get to the gate, you know, like either collapse or get to the gate. You've got to give it everything, because otherwise you'll have to come back. But also like it was interesting because it was almost like it's flashed through my head, you know, if you can't keep going at this pace, then go faster, you know. So like I tried that, which I've heard people say before, and it's like in some ways it was like I couldn't like keep with that, so I just was like push fast. It was almost like I was like telling myself go faster, because you'll get there sooner, and and it'll be over. Like you can't cope with what you're doing, so go faster type thing. And I was just really oxygen deficient on that last bit, because I think probably because I'd had this cough that started on like loop 2. Then I started coughing up like really big thick things, which I think is just to do with breathing quite hard in like cold, dry air for a long time, which has happened to me before. But I can't otherwise really understand why I was so out of breath, because like I'm obviously quite fit and I could run up a hill no problem and without being that out of breath. And the fact is I had like literally sort of been sprinting for like the last, as much as I could for the last 2 hours. I think it was maybe just that, and on top of it then trying to run faster and run uphill. But I've never been that, I've never like had to dig that deep before as I did in that last section.
I was saying to a friend of mine, I said, I've never seen you look that goosed ever, you know, in terms of the finish. But yeah, I mean, let's consider 59 hours and 28 minutes of kind of as hardcore running over the most difficult terrain you can imagine. It's probably going to take out of you a bit, right?
Yeah, but I think it's hard to explain, but I think basically there were so many points where in any other situation, like I would have, like you would have probably given up, but I was so determined to do it this year, like, and I had such like, it's just hard to describe, but like months out I was just like, I'm gonna do it this year, like, and I even like closer friends, I was like telling them, like, I think I can do it this year. It just had I don't even know. I just had this self-confidence about it. And don't even know where it came from. But I think that that kind of belief was what was kept me in the game, you know, like, and then even when it got super hard, I was just like head down and keep going. And I think that was the kind of incredible thing about it when I look back, is like how many moments there were on that race when I was feeling like so much of that race. So, you know, after the first 2 loops, so much of it was just suffering, and I'm still managed to like keep going and pull it off in the end. So I'm definitely prouder of myself about this race than any other. Like when people ask me about the spine and whether that was like my biggest achievement, I was like, you know, like I was proud of the spine, but there was the Ramsey, and there was like, you know, the Bob Graham, and there was like other things as well. But this is definitely like, I definitely put myself in a different place in terms of like, in terms of what I ask, because I'm always more about how much I put in, you know, like that's what means the most to me, like how much it costs me. And this, like, I really gave it everything. Like I suffered and gave it everything, and I pulled it off, just despite all the odds. It felt like at the last leap it was like against all the odds, and I pulled it off. So it was super exciting. Sorry, I'm waffling a bit. You can.
No, please, it's great. I mean, it's great to hear you so animated about it, because I suppose, you know, my question was going to be along the lines of kind of, look, you know, how does it feel kind of now you're done, really? Because, you know, quite often you don't get that sense of pride when you finish stuff, because it's just, you know, you've just finished. But I mean, you left nothing out there, right? This was everything.
I didn't leave anything out there, because it was, because I knew, like, it cost me enough effort to get through those first 4 loops. And then I needed to go faster for the final one, and I didn't leave anything out there at all. It was like I gave it everything.
Yeah,
I'm pretty proud of it.
So, I mean, you said you were confident going into it. I know we kind of had a brief conversation, you know, down at the NRS briefly about kind of how you were and stuff, and you look fit then. You know, I mean, you always look fit. I mean, you were looking as well as I've ever seen you look, right? So, what was there anything different about how you approached this to the fun runs? Did you just have, I don't know, did you have more awareness? Was it mindset? You know, how did you go into this one? Because, you know, I know, you know, I feel a little bit, you know, like we've been on this journey, we've had these conversations kind of post fun runs. But did you approach it differently?
Yeah, so I think there were some things that changed. I don't know how much I talked to you about, because I feel like a bit silly talking about it in some ways, but I had this fatigue. I've had this intermittent fatigue tiredness thing going on for like the last couple of years, which is like, it's really subtle, so I feel a bit bad even mentioning it. But it hasn't always been really subtle, like kind of, I don't know, summer this year, you know, because I dropped out of the Tour de Géant. That's worth noting. I dropped out of the Tour de Géant this last year, and just because of this tiredness, I was like, I need to do something about it. I need to shift it. But basically, long story short, it just went away in like November, December time. It just went away, and I suddenly felt like 2 years ago. Like it just felt amazing, and it was like I felt sure that this time it was like gone, and it just meant that suddenly I had like more hours in the day, because I didn't need to sleep 8 to 10 hours to feel okay, and I just had like my energy back again, like I used to have. So as I say, it's subtle, so you don't need to kind of like over talk it, but basically there was some sort of tiredness, whether it was kids, whether it's like trying to juggle everything, whether it's a bit of kind of after COVID, because I had COVID before it all started, I don't know. Anyway, this autumn time, or whether it's just because I needed a break and I didn't run the Tour de Géant, and I actually for once had a proper break, because I didn't train. I stopped being coached from like July to October. October, maybe even November. Like I had several months of off being coached, and I just ran for fun, and I didn't run that much. And then I started training again, and then it just and it had gone away. So it was just like, it's just really wonderful. So that was one thing. So I just started feeling like really good in myself again, really energetic. Secondly, I did a lot of strength work. yeah, so I did a lot of strength work, and with like, you know, I do these kind of Coach D's classes, and like Damien does, but basically kind of an online strength class, and did more stuff with weights as well. And the outcome of that is that my leg has got because you've got no cruciate ligament in my left knee, anterior cruciate ligament, and I think just that leg's just sort of over time got weaker, and I did a lot of strength work, so I think I just basically recruited that leg started working, it's doing its fair share again. And it's amazing because it did 5 loops at Barkley, and it's not been good for years after something like that, you know, like it always gets swollen and effused, and it's been like it's like having a normal knee. It's amazing. Like I can't I'm so excited about it. So so the knee was really good. And then the other things are like the obvious things, like I knew what I was doing this time at Barkley. I've already been there and done 7 loops there, and I had this confidence, right, because I'd done quite a lot of those on my own. Like, so the first year I did a good loop and a half, maybe even 2 loops, really, like either on my own or leading the nav when I did it, because I did one on my own completely, and then I did a half on my own, and probably pretty much 2 on my own on the first time, and the second time I did 2 on my own. So that's like 4 loops there that you've got around on your own. And the advantage of that is that not only do you learn the way, but you've made all the mistakes. Like, and that doesn't mean you don't make the mistakes this time. You still make the mistakes, but you correct them more quickly, or you recognize that you're about to make the mistake and you don't make it. And it's really interesting because, like, I ran with both Jared and John this year on various bits, and they both make mistakes as well. It's not like the kind of the people that have been there and finished it multiple times before don't make mistakes, because they do. It's just that you have to be really quick at correcting it, because otherwise, if you end up with a 2-hour, you know, loss of time, then that's the end of it all. So it needs to be like 10 minutes loss of time rather than 2 hours type thing. So it was the navigation, and so knowing what, and then finally I think it was like, I think I did slightly better prep for Barkley, in the sense that I did a lot of climbing, so I did a lot of kind of hill repeats, which I'll talk about in a minute, and then also I did, like, in the kind of last, I guess, month, I did quite a lot of sessions I double trained, so I do a session in the evening as well in the gym on the stair climber. So I tended to try and do like the equivalent of 1,000 meters in like roughly about 40 minutes. So I do do my session in the morning, whether that was like an intervals or like just a long run or whatever else it was, but then I do a session in the evening as well, which was just generally before picking the kids up from nursery or after school club type thing. So just kind of squeezing it in, and then, you know, there's the cycle commute and everything else. But I think in terms of the kind of reps, there's kind of some of the things I did when we were like we stayed for a week near Calendar for half term, and I did like 5, like one morning for my long run I did like 5 times up Ben Ledi, which is like one of the kind of mountain there. So that's about 800 meters of ascent. So it was about 4,000 meters in like kind of one morning on that same mountain. So it was just like running straight up and down. And then the most kind of memorable long run that I did was like my last kind of biggest long run before the thing was here on the local hill, and I just found the kind of steepest side of it and was like, I need to get as much climb as I can in the whatever 22 miles or something that I'm going to do. So I just and I knew it'd take quite a long time, so I went to bed at 8 o'clock with Bryn. Actually, I went to the same time as the 3-year-old. We went to bed, and then I got up at midnight, and it was like chucking it down outside. It was like 1 degree, and it was really throwing it down. And I said to the dog, and we went, and my comrade was like, "You're not," he was still awake working, and he was like, "You're not going out in this." And I was like, "I am." And I went out, and I was climbing up and down the same hill. So, but the thing was, because it was 1 degree, that when you started climbing up, it changed to sleet, and then it was snow. So at the top it was snow, and then I kept like going in and out of the slow liners, going up and down. And because it was so slippy, the grass, because it was all kind of getting snow on the way down, it was really impossible to stay upright. So I ended up kind of sledging down, climbing up, sledging down, and then later in the night it got colder, and then it sort of became much more like proper snow. And in the morning, the hills were all like kind of white. Wow. So I did I did about 8.5 hours of reps on this hill for like 4,700 meters of ascent on quite rough terrain. And then took the kids swimming. So like for their usual morning swim session. Yeah, I mean, I actually met them at the Comrade met me at the pool, so I got 20 minutes in the sauna to warm up first. But that was like, so that, you know, that was kind of, and it was really memorable because I was like, now the song I was listening to music to get myself through it. But like the music that I was listening to then, like it's really evocative for that kind of night that I spent out there. And I don't know, it's just like sometimes you have a training run that's almost as kind of memorable as the event afterwards that you do. And that was definitely one of those, like I definitely remember that because it was kind of special actually.
And was that obviously that was for physical fitness to kind of get some endurance in your legs and get them used to doing that level of elevation. But was there a bit of kind of mental training in that as well? Get your head in the right space. What does Courtney DeWalter call it? The pain cave? Is that what she calls it? Yeah, is it that sort of thing?
Yeah, so like, I mean, even as I was doing it, like it was 1 a.m. and I was like going through this sleet storm into like a blizzard. And I'm like, most people would say this is completely bonkers, but that is what you have to be to run Barkley. So and I think the knowledge that I did it and persisted and managed to do the whole session, that's again like one of those examples where it gives you the confidence, like I did that really bonkers thing and like then return to normal society. It's gonna be good, like I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna pull it off at Barkley. So I did go there feeling like, I don't know, I just for some reason I had this kind of confidence. And the big obvious problem would have been if the weather had not played ball. But then the weather did play ball, so like then the weather forecast was good and I was like, it's on, you know, like this is on. But still it was super hard. Still you just managed it.
Go figure. So thinking about the loops and the training and stuff, you mentioned Jared and you know the interaction that there was video clip of the interaction that you and him had before Loop 5. How was that? I mean, that was quite a significant moment. Certainly seemed like a very kind of sportsman-like moment.
Yeah, and it was absolutely, because I came in and then I was like, because pretty much Damien and John and Greg went, I think they sort of went out around then, and then I said, is anyone, like they went out pretty much as soon as I came in, and then I said, is anyone else still here? And like I said, Jared's still there, he's just getting ready to go. And I knew it was clockwise next. So like somebody next to me said, if you want to go clockwise, you need to go before Jared goes. But they also said like he's getting ready to go. So like part of me also felt like bad, like if I were to, you know, like I was like pretty broken and I kind of didn't really want to get out of the chair, needed to get out of the chair and get off. But it's not like you know, but B also it seemed like a bit like, I don't know, it felt like a bit wrong to kind of jump up and sneak in front of him if he wanted to go clockwise. But as it was like the perfect thing, because he came and he like very, very sportsman like said, if you want, he said, if you're ready, if you're nearly ready to go, you can have clockwise if you want. Or something like that. You know, if you want clockwise, it's yours. I think he said, if you want clockwise, it's yours. And and I basically was like, yeah, because I was like, yes, please. But at that point, I knew that I was trying to get out and get ready, and I couldn't eat pasta and I couldn't eat porridge. So like shoveled down this rice pudding, and as he like came and said that, I was like, yeah, and I like stood up and I like basically threw up the rice pudding and like put it on the side, and I was like, I'm sorry, to the people around me, and then I went and like got my banana and set off. So like it was pretty, like I was feeling pretty miserable when I went, like I wasn't feeling great, but I was definitely buoyed by his you know, by his kind just, you know, by that kind of kindness of his. Yeah.
It's a glamorous sport, ours, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, he was saying it. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, and then throwing up, like, you know, and then kind of, yeah. So what? I've not actually thrown up in a race before.
Have you not? Oh well, that'll.
It's a memorable birth.
The fact that you have this time will lend a lot of comfort to all the rest of us that have. So, so what were the loops like then? Did you? I'm going to ask some silly questions now, but you know, did you have a pacing strategy? Was it just like get round? And what was the plan of attack?
It's interesting because beforehand, I basically in my head had, if you can get round the first 3 loops in 32 hours, then you can do it. and I got round just over 32 hours. Like I think if I'd managed to keep with John and Damien and Ihor at the end of the third loop, because they dropped me a little bit just before not that far before the end, then I would have had a bit more than 32 hours, been a bit quicker than that. But I was not that far over 32 hours when I went out, when I came in, from the third loop. And they actually, so that was my aim to in my head that would have been. And so basically my aim was basically to try and stay with, realistically, John Kelly, but either John Kelly or when it turned out, when I got there and found out that Jared was running, either John Kelly or Jared, somebody in that kind of ballpark, to run with them for the first few loops, just because then I would have enough of a buffer to get round the last two loops. That was what. And so I went and I kind of did go out, like I kind of ran too fast in the first three loops, because that's probably why I felt so awful in the third loop. But it's like not like really like I had a choice, because if I hadn't, then I wouldn't have had enough time to do the last loop. So and the advantage that you gain running with people is huge, in terms of like in a group, you definitely, it can't be too big a group, but if it's a group of like three or four, then it's a big advantage, because you stop each other making mistakes, and there's comfort and there's the lights, and when you're having a bad moment, all you need to do is follow. Do you know what I mean? And then also, what generally happens is someone pulls everybody's pages out and hands them out, so from the book, and so you save minutes running in a group. It can't be a really big group, but a group of 3 or 4 is a big advantage. Yeah. So that was kind of the strategy, was really to try and stay with people in those first few loops, and then I was prepared that I would need to go it alone probably for the last two. As it was, I got to run quite a lot of number 4 with Greg and Jared, which was wonderful.
Okay, and how were those last two then? Because you knew you're against the clock, obviously, slightly over on your time after your fun run. It still feels ridiculous to call it that, by the way. But you knew you had it in the locker. But how did Loop 4 feel? How did that work out?
Yeah, I think a lot of people, I think I'm not the only one. Like, Loop 4 is hard because you know that you've still got to do it again after that, but you're already like super exhausted. And so I found Loop 4 quite hard, and then I was struggling to eat, which wasn't really ideal at all. So couldn't really eat that much, and I tried to eat some gels, and that definitely didn't agree with my tummy, which is part of the reason I then threw up at the checkpoint. But so like it was mainly kind of the kind of struggles with that. But it was really nice to be running with Greg and Jared, and they were super, super nice. We did the kind of new section together, which involves actually a lot of brambles, and it's a really slow section. So that it was nice to have company to kind of negotiate that, because it was it's almost like you're taken out of the race for a moment, and you just have to like find your way through all these brambles type thing, and you're kind of chatting, cursing together, and like there's a lot of cursing. So that is kind of fun. And then you get through it, and then you need to actually start trying to race again and up your speed. But we did all that together, which was really nice. It's just nice to have comfort. Pardon?
Then you're on Loop 5 on your own.
Yeah, and I was on Loop 5 on my own, and I set off, and I was really determined to do it. So, so I got to kind of, I was just like, I was really, really wanted to do it, and I made a mistake, kind of in the first bit of the new section. I made a mistake, and which cost me probably 20 minutes, which is a lot of time in the kind of context of Barkley. Then I kind of was a bit too hesitant in the little bit after that as well, in terms of my decision making. But overall, I didn't make that many it was pretty good, luckily. After that, I kind of hit things spot on, for the most part. And then I got to the fire tower, and I think, at that point in my head, I was like doing okay, and I was like, I think I can do this. But I think the people that were stood there, most of them had sort of written me off already, looking at the time, in terms of, I think I didn't know this, but Ihor apparently took, he took like a decent amount longer than me to get back from the fire tower. So when they calculated timings, when he got back, they said, oh, there's no way that Jasmin's going to make it back, because she'd have to run quite a lot faster than Ihor. But yeah, I didn't kind of doubt. I just went. I was moving much better on loop 5 going through there than I was on, previous loops, certainly since loop 1, really. Yeah. And then on the kind of the climb, and the second to last climb, I was sort of in my head, I was really aware that I needed to go as fast as I could, and I kind of that I wasn't moving my legs fast enough, and I sort of started chanting in my head, and chanting the names of my family, like it was like they were all giving me a push, like one step at a time. So it was like it was like just kind of recruiting. I was like, come on everyone, and it was like saying their names in my head, which was nice, because it sort of felt like it was a joint effort. It was this kind of little chant that I did to myself. And then I kind of, the other thing I did was, because it was pretty hot, so I kept, like, when I could, I dipped into the pools to the rivers, but like, I mean, as in fully dipped, like I went right underneath the water and then carried on, so I wasn't worried about shoes or anything like that. I just kept everything on and just went straight in and under, and that was part of, like, without doing that I definitely wouldn't have finished, because it makes me go quite a lot faster, and when I'm cold, and also, like, I just find something really refreshing about going in cold water, so I kind of did that, generally almost in every valley.
Sorry, do you still swim in the reservoir every morning, or do you not do that anymore?
I do swim in the reservoir, but not like right now. I'm not swimming there every morning, no. But I do like outdoor swim, yeah. So yeah, I was kind of dipping in the pools, which was really nice. Yeah, and then the kind of final descent, I've told you a bit about, really. So it was like, I knew I needed to be fast, and that was interesting, yeah, because I had some pain. I had some tendonitis in my I mean, I had lots of pains that kind of varied throughout the race, because there's always one thing that's most painful, isn't it? And then that takes over, and the thing that you were worrying about before goes away, because you can't concentrate on more than one pain at once. But the tendonitis was the kind of overriding pain by the end. But I knew that I needed to run fast. So from like the fire tower, or even before that, really, probably the last 6 hours, I was actively telling myself to just ignore the pain of the leg. And you have to keep reminding yourself, because otherwise you start to alter your gait. And I was like, I like very aware of the fact that I was telling myself, ignore the pain in your leg and run normally, because you run with a much longer stride if you're not kind of trying to protect your tendons. So that's what I did. So like I ran for a good 6 hours, like actively ignoring the pain, and just trying to like really pound it out, like really stretch out the legs, and like really run, I guess, because the descents are when you can make up time, aren't they? But if you're kind of descending gingerly, then that's not going to happen. So I had to like really make myself, because I knew that I needed to be running more like the time that I ran on the first loop, so I needed to run as if I didn't have any pains, so that's kind of what I did.
So did you know how close it was going to be, Jasmin? I mean, because I mean, like all ultra runners, I'm sure you were doing the maths in your head, and you were thinking, right, okay, I need to kind of
more like 10 minutes at the end.
Right. Okay.
According to my calculations, I'd have had more like 10 minutes when I finished, not 99 seconds. So I don't really know where 10 minutes or so went in that final. It was sort of in that final descent. I don't really know, because I felt like I was pushing it quite hard. So I just like, thank God that I had that extra 10 minutes that I had kind of, that there was this extra 10-minute buffer, because if I'd been already cutting it fine, then I would have not made it, because I honestly thought I was going to finish with about 10 minutes to spare when I left the final summit, and then it was super close.
Right, yeah, super close. Doesn't get much closer, right? You're talking about food there, Jasmin, saying you were sick, couldn't hold anything down. So did you have anything at all on loop 5? I mean, you must have had something, but I mean, what? No,
I did. So I think, trying to think what I had on loop 5. I had some cheese and pickle sandwich. I had I didn't eat that much. I had sweets. I think I might have had a gel or two. Although I was being a bit careful with gels after what happened on loop 4. Trying to think if I actually ate anything else. Oh yeah, probably I ate some Snickers as well. Snickers actually work pretty well, even though they're a bit sickly. Like, you don't really want to eat them, but I can generally eat them and get them down even later on in races. So yeah, Snickers, sweets, and a bit of sandwich, some gels. I probably should have had more salt, really, and I realised that, but there wasn't any salt to be found. So And I ate the banana. I ate the banana when I set off. So
Yeah.
So just enough to keep you ticking over by the sounds of it.
I think I basically ran on adrenaline for the last loop. I think it was just like totally, probably mobilized some fat stores as well. So that's the advantage of having a little bit of extra insulation, is that you can use it on the final loop.
You got a backup food supply when things get a bit bleak. So, I mean, you said it was tight and it was a very dramatic finish, you know, really was. But one of the things that made me smile was Conrad running up to you and kind of, because obviously you kind of rolled over to the side, and the first thing you did was get in your pack and get your pages out, and I was laughing. Have you seen the video? He must say, I don't know what he said to you. He must have said something in your ear like, go on. I'm imagining he said something like, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" Because in the video, watching you run up, he's obviously delighted because he's crewed you. And then he kind of rolled to one side. And I'm so sorry, but I was like, he was straight in there, pages out, little, the little Ziploc bag, wherever you had them in. I was like, priorities, Conrad, good man.
He knew I was all right. I was just like, I was breathing really hard. And I was like, yeah, like I just couldn't speak. And he was asking whether I needed anything and that sort of thing. And I was just like, just let me breathe, like I couldn't say it, but I just needed to breathe. So like I've never had an oxygen deficit like that, because I was like breathing super hard for quite a long time and it just wasn't going away. So whatever the reason was, whether there was something in my chest or whatever, I think I just had built up a deficit, like a lot of lactic acid, and it just needed a moment to like dissipate. But in the meantime, he sorted out the pages thing, because I was realized that like I hadn't like, I guess I never did that whole thing. And then at some point after that, when I was kind of sitting up, Laz gave me the button to press, and that was easy button, which is so ironic. And John Kelly's little girl who was stood there was like, but it wasn't easy.
Yeah, irony's lost on the young. Did Laz say anything to you, or was he his stoic self?
I mean, I think he was pretty happy. I mean, I can't remember what his exact words were, but like he made it clear that he was delighted. I mean, I think he was delighted. I think he was impressed. I think he saw how much it cost me. I think he was impressed.
Did you manage to get any sleep at all in your 60 hours? Did you get a few nods in the chair, or was it?
Between leaps 3 and 4, I said to Conrad, I'm going to have 3-minute power nap. So I sat in the chair and closed my eyes. I'm not really sure that I had 3 minutes, and I don't think I was asleep, but I had my eyes closed for 3 minutes sitting down, which was nice. That was it.
And how are the family now you're back? I mean, is there an awareness from the two young ones of what you've done, or is it just like, oh, mum's back from another race? What's the
3-year-old, like, it's just mum's back from being away. That's it. Like, and it's nice because the first time I went to Barkley, he was really just still a baby. So like when I came back, I remember his little face lit up like sunshine, and then suddenly he realized he was supposed to be angry with me, and he like gave me the cold shoulder for like several hours and wouldn't like look at me or talk to me. Well, I mean, he didn't really talk at that point. He just wouldn't look at me because he was that was when he was like 1.5. But now he's like now he was just really pleased to see me. My daughter Rowan, she gets a little bit now, because like people have said to her at school that they saw her mum on telly, like her classmates, and like the head teacher has said to her and that sort of thing. So she gets it, and she gets a bit more that it was like a big deal. But still, is they're a wonderful kind of leveler and bring you back to the present. And I don't know, like, don't let you get too kind of big-headed kids, do they? Because you know that you're still in the same battles about bedtime, about tidying up clothes, and about and still essentially need to worry about the same things, like doing the washing and doing the washing up, and making the dinner, and so it's just like right back to normal life, and you've got no chance to you're just right back into it. Which was actually why it was really nice to cycle commute today, because I had, for the first time, it felt like since I got, certainly since I got back, that I had like 20 minutes to myself to just think about what happened, which was really nice.
Yeah. Okay.
How's the recovery? How are you?
Yeah, no, it's good. It's good. I've just got I've got a bit of tendinitis, and I've got some blisters, and feet, legs are still slightly swollen. Feet maybe really, but other than that, yeah, they're pretty good. It's pretty good.
I can imagine, as I said, it must have been a whirlwind for you from the minute you've touched down to now. Really, you know, lots of media attention. I heard you talk, I think yesterday on the radio, that you're back to Tour de Gilles this year.
Yeah.
Okay.
So so because I had an entry last year and they said I could roll it over. So yeah.
Good stuff. All right.
I'm aware that you've got an precious evening, hopefully to yourself, but with family. So do you know what? I'm going to leave it there, Jasmin. But huge congratulations on behalf of everybody at Ultra Magazine and the RunUltra website. We're all hugely proud of you. We really are. You know, you. Anyway, I'm not going to go on because I know you get embarrassed, but bloody well done. You know what I mean? It's just great, and hopefully our paths will cross sometime soon.
Yeah, that would be lovely.
Jasmin, thank you ever so much. Bye. Take care. Bye-bye.